Hi there, Michael Prenez-Isbell. I'm reading Matthew Crawford's The World Beyond Your Head on Becoming an Individual in an Age of Something. In the preface, in paragraph 1, he talks about the mental life and how it's become fragmented. And I created a picture of what it would be like otherwise, a whole self. The question is whether this self or self prime is actually a coherent self, whereas this one is presumed to have been one at some point. Mental life is, by its very nature, founded by the ability to have your attention focused. Um, and I use the phrases no one is home and someone is home to distinguish between the two kinds of selves. This kind of self just flits about and responds to stimuli. This self possesses settled purposes and ongoing projects, according to the author. And I make a note, it's an old thought I've had, what people need versus what companies selling things need people to be are two completely different things. Um, Now the whole society sees this, and that's a very interesting situation because then it demands a response. What does it mean to be a human being when it's quite clear that we are experiencing the world in a different way than we used to? Paragraph 2, he notes that there is an offered picture of the human being, which I call the mediated world, which probably began around the Enlightenment through the 20th century and possibly is culminating now, in which we just generally acknowledge that how a person experiences the world is his head has to look at the world and have some kind of encounter with it, and the nature of that encounter is through mental representations, through mediation. Here we have a car in the world, here we have a car represented in his head, and we know that it's a created mediation, and either you're the one creating it or somebody else does it for you. And if somebody else does it for you, it's highly engineered. And by the very nature of being engineered, I note it is predictable and repeatable and has an intended purpose and is reproducible, by the way, and is manipulable, according to the author, which makes perfect sense. That's paragraph 3. Paragraph 4, the author lets us know what he's up to. He wants to understand the experience of attending to real objects and other people. These are two key phrases for him. And attending to, he's underlining the fact that he's going to be dealing with attention. He's going to question founding doctrines of human cognition. Don't quite know what they are yet, that he's questioning. And he's going to investigate pressures put on everyday life. These pressures make our experiences illegible to us. I might have said unintelligible, but I get what he means. I've often thought this, we're having experiences that we no longer have the language to describe because it's fallen out of common use, because it's not useful to describe these things in things like pop movies, pop songs, or so forth. If you emit enough pop culture, it will circumscribe describable reality, describable experience. There needs to be, if literature or non-pop culture has a purpose, it's to preserve and continue describable reality beyond what pop culture can describe. Now, possibly beyond what scriptural culture could describe in past ages. I'm wondering if we're talking about language as well as attention, and I know here. So he notes our own culture has become strange, and I note even to us, and he talks about our approach to education and the mood of our public spaces. That makes complete sense to me. I've often, the experience of Occupy Wall Street made me realize that one of the first moves of a political tyranny is to strip people of a public space. It's one of the things that makes the internet very dangerous, is that it provides a kind of public space, even if it's in cyberspace. Because in a public space you can gather and make plans to throw off your oppressors. Paragraph 5, he's going to draw strands of dissident thought from the philosophical tradition. I rather like that phrase, and he's going to draw on these strands to offer a better picture. So he has a problem with the old picture. He's going to offer us a better picture of encountering objects and encountering other people. And he's going to generate a new understanding that will let us think in useful ways about our current crisis, which is the crisis of attention. And that will allow us to reclaim possibilities of human flourishing. And I'm wondering, how is that possible in a world with a dying climate, and why do we care, since we're all probably screwed? But this is my general question about everything. And maybe the answer is we just keep doing what we're doing until the end. I don't know. Paragraph 6, so he's going to give us a method. And the method that he's going to use here is case studies of attention and skilled practices. And he's going to look at activities that require complete immersion in a particular situation. So you lose yourself, in a practice, in a skill, the way I lose myself when I'm programming, or when you're doing anything, when you're playing pool, when you become one with the process and the parts that you're working with. And he hopes to reveal something about our human constitution, literally what constitutes us, what constitutes our parts, what the forces are that put us together as a self. And he's going to oppose this to the self-understanding of human culture, so this is going to add more, and it's going to be more than what we have right now. It's going to generate a new understanding, and the question is that a new understanding is the current self-understanding plus, or he's going to wipe out the old self-understanding of Western culture and provide a new understanding completely. Paragraph 7, he notes that skilled practices are what tie you to the world. They give you a foundational sense of attachment to the world. And he's going to create a method of triangulation in individual objects and other people. Individuals have a reality, and so do other people. And I note here in post-human studies that Ian Bagasse and others indicate that objects themselves also have realities, although probably not relevant to this book, so I'll bracket it. The triangulation is a method he's recommending that will allow us to achieve individuality, or to identify it in this case. And he notes it is an achievement. It isn't very likely to just happen to you. You have to go get it. And I have my usual question about dysfunction generating individuals. It's not much of a question. It's obvious to me that it does. But anyway, culture. Our current culture expresses an idiom of individuality, he notes, but it obscures individuality itself. And I need to find out more of what he has to say about that, because I'm not quite clear on it. And I note that it probably, in fact, disables the means to achieve it, and it does so for commercial purposes. Individuals are of very little use to companies, orthogonal, if not worse than that. All they're interested in is whether you're engaged in behavior which will increase your purchases of their product, which will increase their profits. And they don't mean any harm by it, but that's the circle of your use to them. So there you go.